You're absolutely useless. Why are you even here? That's what my daughter-in-law Christine said to me, loudly, at Christmas dinner, in front of my son, in front of my grandkids, in front of a table full of food I helped cook and gifts I spent weeks shopping for. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I looked her straight in the face and said, "Then stop calling me every time your credit card gets declined." She went pale, then red, and what she did next forced me to call 911 within minutes. But let me start at the beginning. My name is Helen Carter, and I'm 68 years old. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom house in Maple Hill, a quiet suburb near Portland. My husband, Frank, passed away 12 years ago. Since then, my son David and his wife Christine have been my only close family. I have 2 grandkids, Lucas, who just turned 17, and Sophie, who's 14. They used to visit me all the time, until Christine decided she was better off pretending I didn't exist, unless she needed help. This Christmas was supposed to be different. David invited me a month in advance, said the kids missed me, and that Christine wanted me there. That last part should have been my first red flag. I arrived right on time, 9:30 a.m. sharp, with my special holiday carrot cake and a bag of carefully wrapped gifts. I'd even bought Christine a silk scarf, not because I like her, but because I was trying. Still trying. Grandma Helen. Sophie ran to hug me at the door. She smelled like cinnamon and hairspray and hope. Lucas gave me a quick grin. "Hey, Grandma," he said, voice cracking just a bit, already taller than his dad. Even Christine played her part. She opened the door with a forced smile and a glass of wine already in her hand. "Helen, you made it. Lovely." Like I was the mailman. David looked tired but hugged me tightly. "Glad you're here, Mom. You look good." For the first hour it all seemed fine. The kids opened gifts. Christine commented on how tasteful my wrapping paper was. David laughed at old stories from when he was a boy. I helped in the kitchen. I poured cider. I passed out napkins. And then came the desserts. "Christine," I said, peering into the fridge, "where's the carrot cake I brought?" Her face barely twitched. "Oh, I put it in the garage fridge. I figured we had enough sweets already. But Lucas loves. He'll live." She turned back to the oven. "Besides, I made tiramisu. From scratch." Stung, but I let it go. I had to. The kids were still laughing in the living room. But then Christine started snapping at me for how I was carving the ham. Criticized the way I folded napkins. Whispered to David when she thought I couldn't hear. Something about managing expectations. I should have left then. I should have just picked up my coat and walked out the door. But I didn't. I stayed for the kids, like I always do. And then dinner began. The food was perfect. The tension was suffocating. Halfway through dinner, Christine poured herself a third glass of wine, stood up from the table, and clinked her fork against her glass like she was about to give a wedding toast. "I just want to say," she started, looking right at me, "that some people should know when their time is up, when their presence isn't helpful anymore. It's sad, really, to watch someone hang around pretending they matter." David's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Lucas stared at his plate. Sophie blinked twice. And I felt something cold settle in my chest. That's when I stood up and said it. "Then stop calling me every time your credit card gets declined." Christine laughed, sharp and bitter. "Oh please. That's the only thing you're good for anymore. Bailing us out." What happened next didn't feel real. She threw her wine glass. Not at me, but hard enough that it hit the wall and shattered. Sophie screamed. Lucas jumped to his feet. And David, my son, my only child, just sat there. Still frozen. Still silent. I reached for my purse and my coat. "That's enough. I'm done." Christine screamed something behind me, something that didn't make sense, but I heard the crash of more glass, a plate maybe. That's when I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I told the dispatcher there'd been a domestic disturbance, that I felt unsafe, and that I was leaving the property immediately. I walked out into the snow-covered driveway with my head held high. And as I waited in my car for the police to arrive, I realized something. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I was free. The officer who showed up was polite, maybe mid-30s, with a name tag that read Peterson. He asked a few questions, glanced at the front door, then back at me in the driver's seat of my parked car. You sure you're okay to drive home, ma'am? I'm fine, I said, voice steady. But you might want to check on the woman inside. She's not stable. He nodded, jotting something in his little notepad. Anyone lay hands on you? No, I said. But that's only because I walked out. It was 8:30 when I pulled into my driveway. I turned off the engine and just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at my front porch. It was decorated with little white lights, my own doing, wrapped around the banister and hanging like lace from the roof edge. Part of me wanted to cry. Another part wanted to laugh. Christine had finally said it out loud. Everything she'd been hinting at for years. That I was only useful when I paid for things. That my presence wasn't welcome unless it came with dollar signs. I'd ignored the signs. The last-minute canceled visits. The birthdays celebrated without invitations. The way she referred to me as David's mother instead of mom or grandma when talking to the kids. But it wasn't until tonight that I realized she didn't just dislike me. She resented me. And David let her. I turned off the headlights and sat there until the car got cold. Then I went inside, hung up my coat, and poured myself a cup of decaf. My hands were steady, my breathing slow, but my mind was racing. I sat down at my kitchen table, the one Frank and I bought in '79, and pulled out a yellow notepad from the drawer. At the top I wrote in capital letters, "Everything I've paid for." And then I made a list. $5,000 for their down payment 2010, $2,200 for Lucas's braces, $1,500 for Sophie's summer camp, countless grocery runs when David was laid off, 3 car payments when Christine lost her debit card, textbooks, field trips, Christmases, birthdays, gas money. That time I paid their HOA fees to avoid a lien. By the time I was done, the list covered 2 full pages. But it wasn't about the money. Not really. It was about the truth. I wasn't useless. I was their safety net. Their invisible backbone. The one who stepped in quietly and made things work when they couldn't or wouldn't. I set the pen down and stared at the paper until the words blurred. Then I reached for a second sheet of paper and wrote another heading. What I want from now on. And I wrote one word beneath it. Respect. Not apologies. Not excuses. Not another dinner invitation smothered in fake smiles. Just respect. And if I couldn't get that, they weren't getting anything more from me. The next morning I woke up to 3 missed calls and 1 voicemail. It was David. Hey mom. Look, last night got out of hand. Christine had a bit too much wine and the kids were just, well, it was stressful. I really wish you hadn't called the police though. That was kind of extreme, don't you think? Anyway, maybe we can talk later this week. Christine feels terrible. Okay. Love you. He never asked how I was. Never once. Later that day, Sophie texted me. Just 3 words. I love you. And that was the first real thing I'd felt in 24 hours. That night, I pulled out the lockbox from the top shelf of my closet. The one with all the documents, the deed to my house, the living trust, the power of attorney, the account balances, the beneficiaries. Everything I had ever set up for my family. I opened the folder marked inheritance planning. Christine's name was everywhere. So was David's. They were listed to receive nearly everything: the house, the savings, the life insurance. It made sense once. When I believed in unconditional love. I stared at those pages for a long time. Then I pulled them out. And I started shredding. The sound of the shredder wasn't loud, but it filled the room like thunder. Every page I fed into it felt like I was peeling off layers of naivety. I had spent years convincing myself that loyalty was enough. That love would be returned if I just kept giving. But all it got me was a broken wine glass and a public humiliation. The next morning, I scheduled an appointment with my lawyer, Susan Whitaker. She'd helped me set up my estate plan after Frank died. When I called, she didn't even hesitate. I can see you tomorrow morning. Bring everything. I gathered every relevant document, including a photo of me with Lucas and Sophie, taken when they were much younger, the kind where their smiles hadn't yet learned to be polite, where their affection was real. I tucked it into the folder. Not for legal reasons. Just as a reminder. The law office was in a quiet part of downtown Maple Hill, tucked between a post office and a florist shop. Susan's office hadn't changed in years. Books lined the walls, her chair still squeaked when she leaned back. She looked at me over her glasses and asked, "So what's changed?" I handed her the folder. "I want to change everything." She nodded slowly. "Any specific concerns?" "I no longer want Christine or David to inherit a dime from me." She didn't flinch. "Do you want to redirect those assets to your grandchildren?" I shook my head. "Only if they earn it. I'll set up a trust for Sophie. I think there's still hope there. But Lucas, I need more time." Susan leaned forward. "Would you like to make it conditional?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I want them to show me respect. Not fake apologies. Not holiday visits. Real presence. I want them to prove they value me as a person, not just a bank account." She smiled faintly. "That I can do." Over the next hour we rewrote everything. My house would be transferred to a women's shelter in town after my passing. My savings would go into a scholarship fund in Frank's name for children raised by single grandparents. Sophie's trust would be held until she turned 21, with release contingent on regular communication and her visiting me twice a year. Lucas was removed entirely, pending a future amendment. I signed each page slowly, making sure I read every word. Susan slid the final page toward me. "Last chance to change your mind." I signed, and just like that everything changed. That night I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about what I'd done. Not out of guilt. I didn't regret it, but out of sadness. It didn't have to be this way. They could have loved me. They chose not to. The following week, I received another voicemail from David. His tone was different this time, cautious, almost impatient. "Mom, Christine wants to talk. She feels like you're punishing us, and that's not really fair. I know things were tense, but we're family. You can't just cut people off." I didn't return the call. Instead, I sent an envelope to their house. Inside was a copy of the revised trust summary. Not the full details, just enough for them to see their names were gone. And a sticky note that read, "Being family is not a free pass. It's a choice. One you stopped making a long time ago. Mom." 3 days later, Christine showed up on my doorstep. And she wasn't alone. I saw her through the window before the doorbell rang. Christine standing on my porch, arms crossed, lips tight. And beside her David, hands shoved deep into his coat pockets, avoiding eye contact even through the glass. I didn't open the door right away. I wanted them to feel it, the weight, the imbalance. A small taste of what I'd been feeling for years. Then I opened the door. "Helen," Christine said, smiling like she was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. "We were in the neighborhood and thought we'd drop by." I looked past her. "David." "Hey, Mom." His voice was weak. Not angry. Not remorseful. Just hollow. I didn't invite them in. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. Christine blinked. "Oh, I thought maybe we could talk inside?" "I thought maybe you could say what you came to say," I said, arms folded. Her smile dropped an inch. "Well, we were surprised to see the changes in your paperwork." David looked up. "Is this really necessary, Mom? You tell me." Christine stepped forward. Hands raised like I was a frightened animal. "Helen, I said some things I didn't mean. It was Christmas, there was wine, and I got emotional. But we're family. Families argue. Families don't throw glasses at the wall and call each other useless." She flinched. David finally spoke up. "It's just, it feels like you're overreacting." I stared at him. "Overreacting?" "She was drunk, Mom. You know how Christine gets when she's overwhelmed." "She's always overwhelmed," I said. "But I've never seen her throw a glass at you." Christine laughed, bitter now. "So this is about punishing us? Taking away the inheritance? Out of spite?" "No," I said. "It's about protecting myself. From users. From liars. From people who only remember I exist when they need money." David's jaw clenched. "You're twisting things." "No. I'm finally seeing things clearly." Christine dropped the mask. "You're doing this because you're bitter. Because you're alone and want to make us pay for it." "Actually," I said calmly, "I've never felt more at peace." She scoffed. "You're making a mistake. When you're gone, no one will even care." "That's what I'm counting on." And with that, I turned and went inside, closing the door gently in their faces. 2 days later, Lucas called me. That surprised me. "Hey, Grandma." His voice was uncertain. Hello, Lucas. I heard what happened. Mom and Dad are kind of freaking out. I didn't respond. I guess I just wanted to say sorry for the way things went down. Lucas, are you calling because you mean that? Or because you heard your name isn't on the will anymore? He hesitated. Too long. I ended the call. The next week was quiet, peaceful even. I went to the market, bought fresh flowers for my table, cleaned the attic. I even took out a puzzle I'd been meaning to start. 1,000 pieces, just like my life, finally being put back together. That Friday, Sophie showed up unannounced. Alone. She stood on my porch in a puffy blue jacket, holding a paper bag. I brought cookies, she said. The kind you like. I opened the door. She came in without waiting. I'm sorry, Grandma. I don't know what's going on between you and Mom and Dad, but I just wanted to see you. I believed her. We sat together, talked, laughed, ate cookies, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel the weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. As she was leaving, she hugged me tightly. Thank you for not giving up on me. I never would, I said. Not on you. After she left, I sat back down and pulled out my notebook. Under the line about Sophie's trust, I added a check mark. And a date. By February, I had stopped waiting for apologies. I didn't need them anymore. Christine and David tried a few more tactics. Guilt, nostalgia, even manipulation masked as affection. At one point, David texted me a photo of the kids as toddlers with the caption, "Remember this? We were so close back then." I didn't reply. That's the thing about nostalgia. It's often used to distract from the present. And in the present, my son had allowed his wife to humiliate me, and then blamed me for reacting. I wasn't going back. Instead, I started making new plans. I volunteered twice a week at the Maple Hill Community Center, helping senior citizens learn how to use smartphones and tablets. I hosted Sunday lunch for my neighbor's daughter, a young nurse new to town, who reminded me of myself in my 20s, tired, kind, and too quick to say yes. And I spent time with Sophie. She came over every other weekend, sometimes just for an hour, sometimes for the whole afternoon. We baked. We played board games. She helped me organize my pantry and showed me how to make playlists on my phone. She never asked about the will, never hinted at money. She just showed up. That mattered. So I made it official. I met with Susan again and amended the trust. Sophie would inherit my car, the rest of my personal belongings, and an additional account I'd kept private. One Christine didn't even know existed. The scholarship fund stayed. The house would still go to the shelter. Lucas remained off the list. One afternoon while walking through town, I ran into Becky Harmon, an old friend of Frank's from the community board. She hugged me tight and said, "I heard what happened. About your son. Your daughter-in-law. I'm sorry." "Don't be," I said. "They revealed who they are. I just finally listened." She nodded. "You know, when Frank was alive, he always said you were the strongest woman he knew." I smiled. I'm starting to believe him. Then something unexpected happened. David showed up at my house alone. No Christine. No warning. I saw him through the peephole, standing with his hands clasped like a nervous schoolboy. I debated not answering, but curiosity won out. I opened the door just a crack. He looked older. Not physically, emotionally. Like life had taken something from him he didn't know how to replace. "Can I come in?" "No." He exhaled. "Fair." We stood there in silence for a few seconds. "I messed up, Mom." "Yes," I said. "You did." His eyes welled. "I let Christine talk to you like that. I didn't defend you. And then I tried to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. I didn't say anything. I was weak. Still I waited. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I see it now." And for the first time I saw something in his face that hadn't been there before. Shame. Real shame. He wasn't asking for money. He wasn't asking for anything. He just wanted to be heard. And so I listened. We stood on that porch for nearly 20 minutes. He talked. I listened. When he left, I didn't invite him back. But I didn't close the door all the way either. That night I opened my notebook one more time. I didn't cross anything out. But I wrote something new. Redemption takes time. Trust takes longer. Spring came slowly to Maple Hill. The snow melted, the days stretched longer, and the tulips I planted last fall, the ones I'd nearly forgotten, bloomed along the walkway in front of my house. They were small, imperfect, but bright, unapologetically alive. Bit like me. I was sitting on the porch one afternoon when a letter arrived. Not an email. Not a text. A real letter. It was from Sophie. Inside was a folded sheet of pale yellow paper with neat handwriting. No drama. No request. Just this. Dear Grandma, thank you for listening, for being patient, for letting me come to you without judgment. You're the strongest person I know. I hope one day I'm as brave as you. Love, Sophie. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer, right next to the old black and white photo of Frank in his army uniform. He would have been proud of her. Of me. Of how I stopped letting other people define my worth. By mid-May, the scholarship fund was officially launched. I named it after my grandmother, the Eleanor May Carter Fund, because she's the one who taught me how to stand tall even when no one clapped for you. Susan helped me set up a system to ensure it couldn't be undone. Not by lawyers. Not by guilt. Not by the tears of adult children who only visit when the checkbook is open. The local newspaper ran a small story about the launch. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Sophie. That same week I had dinner with Dolores McKinney, my oldest friend. We sat on her screened-in porch with cold lemonade and chicken salad sandwiches. You look different, she said. Lighter. I am. She raised a brow. So? What's next? I smiled. Whatever I want. On the first Sunday of June, Sophie came over with a small potted plant. It's rosemary, she said. You always say your kitchen smells like memory. I laughed. That's because I'm always cooking something older than both of us combined. We planted it together in the small garden patch behind my kitchen window. She didn't ask about her parents. I didn't bring them up. There was peace in the silence. After she left, I made a pot of tea and sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd once scribbled down every dollar I gave, every favor I did, every insult I endured. Now that table held something new. A stack of thank you cards from scholarship applicants. A seat catalog. A worn-out notepad with only one phrase left at the bottom of the last page. I am not useless. Weeks later I got another call from David. This time I answered. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't even mention the will. He just told me about a project he was working on at his job. Something he was proud of. We talked for 7 minutes. And it was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. I don't know if our relationship will ever be what it once was. But I know this, it won't go back to what it was before. Because I've changed. I've remembered who I am. And I've decided that my worth is not up for debate. Not by a daughter-in-law with sharp words. Not by a silent son, not by anyone. So if you ever find yourself sitting alone after Christmas dinner, wondering if your life still matters, let me be the one to tell you. It does.